The storm had been raging for hours. The kind of storm that turned the sky into a violent shade of black, tearing tree branches loose and leaving the road slick and nearly impossible to drive on. Cars skidded, power lines shook, and even the most confident drivers found themselves second-guessing every turn. In a small suburban town outside Chicago, Jacob Hayes tightened his grip on the steering wheel of his old pickup truck as the rain pounded like 1,000 tiny fists against the windshield. He wasn't out for himself. He rarely drove in storms this bad. But his 9-year-old daughter, Lily, had been sick all week, and he'd just returned from the pharmacy with medicine she desperately needed. Every decision Jacob made circled back to her. He was a single dad, had been for the last 6 years. His wife, Angela, had passed away when Lily was just 3, and from that moment on, Jacob's life had been about survival, sacrifice, and somehow trying to be both father and mother at once. He worked construction jobs during the day, repaired old furniture at night, and despite the struggle, never once let his daughter feel like she lacked love. As his truck crawled up the narrow, winding road leading to his modest home at the edge of town, Jacob's headlights caught a sleek black car stranded on the shoulder. Its hazard lights blinked frantically through the storm, but the driver's side door was open, and no one was inside. Frowning, Jacob slowed, peering through the rain. A figure was trying to wrestle with the trunk in the howling wind. At first glance, it looked like a woman, her frame elegant but clearly struggling against the force of the storm. She was drenched, her hair plastered to her face, her expensive-looking coat clinging to her. Jacob pulled over instinctively. He knew most people would keep driving. Stopping in weather like this wasn't safe. But something inside him refused to leave someone helpless. He rolled the window down and shouted, "Hey, you okay out here?" The woman turned sharply, startled, and for a split second Jacob saw her face in the flicker of his headlights. Sharp features, eyes wide with worry, and a kind of fragile determination that reminded him of someone used to being in control but now cornered. "My car died," she shouted back, her voice trembling. "And I can't get it to start again." Jacob didn't hesitate. "You can't stay out here. It's not safe. Come on, I'll give you a ride." The woman hesitated, and Jacob could almost see the debate in her eyes. Strangers, late at night, in the middle of a storm. But then lightning cracked across the sky, followed by a roar of thunder so violent it shook the ground beneath them. That seemed to settle her decision. She nodded and grabbed a bag from her car before hurrying toward his truck. By the time she climbed in, shivering and soaked, Jacob had already cranked up the heat. She let out a shaky breath, clutching her bag tightly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Jacob glanced at her. "You're lucky I saw you. The road's dangerous tonight." She nodded, pushing wet strands of hair behind her ear. I didn't think the storm would get this bad. I was just trying to get out of the city." "Where were you headed?" he asked. She hesitated again. "Just away. Anywhere safe." Jacob didn't press. Instead, he introduced himself. "Name's Jacob. Jacob Hayes." After a pause, she replied softly, "Claire." Something about the way she said it, like she wasn't used to giving her name to strangers, piqued his curiosity, but he stayed quiet. As they drove through the winding road, Jacob finally pulled into his gravel driveway, where a small, 2-bedroom house sat tucked beneath the shadows of tall trees. A warm light flickered from inside the window. "This is home," he said, parking. "Come inside. Dry off. Storm like this could last all night." Claire opened her mouth as if to protest, but another crack of thunder silenced her. She followed him inside. The warmth hit her instantly, along with the soft scent of cinnamon and wood. The little house was humble but inviting. Worn couches, books stacked haphazardly on a coffee table, a fireplace flickering, and above the mantel, a photo of a smiling little girl with curly brown hair. "Daddy," a small voice called from down the hallway. Jacob smiled. "That's my girl, Lily." A moment later, Lily appeared, rubbing her eyes. She was pale, clearly sick, wearing pajamas with cartoon stars on them. Her gaze shifted from her father to the stranger dripping water onto their carpet. "Hi there," Claire said softly, her voice instantly gentler. "Sorry to barge in. I'm just escaping the storm." Lily's lips curled into a tiny smile despite her exhaustion. "You look like a movie star." Jacob chuckled, shaking his head. "Back to bed, Lily. I've got your medicine. But Lily lingered, her gaze locked on Claire with an odd kind of curiosity, before she finally padded back to her room. Claire stood awkwardly, her designer shoes leaving wet marks on the wooden floor. I don't want to intrude. You're not, Jacob interrupted. You'd be in trouble if you stayed out there. I'll grab you a towel and some dry clothes. Minutes later, Claire was wrapped in one of Jacob's old flannel shirts, far too big for her but warm. She sat near the fire, watching Jacob move around the kitchen as he poured medicine into a spoon for Lily. The tenderness in his actions, the way he stroked his daughter's hair, the soft words he used, hit her unexpectedly hard. She wasn't used to men like this. Because Claire wasn't just any woman. She was Claire Donovan, CEO of Donovan Enterprises, one of the largest real estate firms in the Midwest. She was a single mother too, though no one in the world knew. Her 6-year-old son, Ethan, was back in the city with her sister for the night. Claire's life was a constant battle between empire building and motherhood, between power and love. And tonight, when the storm had caught her off guard, she had felt something she hadn't felt in years, powerless. Watching Jacob with Lily stirred something in her chest she didn't want to admit. Here was a man with so little compared to her world, yet he had something she often felt she lacked: closeness, presence, warmth. Hours passed, the storm growing worse outside, but inside the little house, there was laughter. Jacob made tea for Claire, and she found herself opening up more than she expected. She told him about Ethan, without mentioning her wealth or position. She told him about the challenges of raising a child alone, and Jacob listened without judgment. He shared his own struggles, the nights he'd gone without so Lily could eat, the loneliness that clawed at him sometimes, but always with a quiet dignity that humbled her. By midnight, Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, her head resting in Claire's lap. Jacob glanced over and saw the sight: his daughter peacefully snuggled against this stranger who seemed to fit, oddly, into their little home. Something stirred inside him, something he hadn't let himself feel in years. What neither of them knew was that this storm was just the beginning. The next days would unravel truths neither expected: Claire's hidden identity as one of the most powerful women in the city, Jacob's unshakable integrity that would challenge her world, and a connection that neither storms nor secrets could erase. Because sometimes the most shocking thing wasn't the storm itself, but the shelter two people found in each other's hearts when they least expected it.